Let's see how we go. Is it going? Is it going up? Let's hope it all works. I might just be talking to myself. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Yes. Alright. I think there's also going to be a lag, so I'm just kind of watching people join. And also, I guess it is live. I'm watching it on my other screen. Don't know how it all works. It's fine. Hi everyone. We're gonna let, I guess, more people come in. Also, if you see the screen get small like that, it's because it's locked onto my Photoshop page, and when I have to switch over to, like, do something on my, internet browser, it makes it small because it can't capture anything else. It's to hide everything else from everyone. Just making sure. I don't entirely know how many people will even show up, but that's fun. Peak Learn Energy. Hi, Sammy. Yeah, very excited to get this on up. Yep, I'm watching it get smaller and bigger, and it's such a weird effect. It's just whatever the capture program works. So, hello everybody. Going to be redrawing the very, 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 very first image that I ever did of these two that I made about, sometime in March of 2018. They were just kind of these random characters that I decided that I was going to add some... yes, they are creepy. Kawachan was very chaotic in the very first drawing, but then again, these two didn't have personalities. They were just fun characters that I decided to do a short comic on, thinking I was going to do like maybe 5 chapters and then call it a day. And 2 years later, it is my source of income. So things have changed, and you can definitely see it, especially with Kawachan, things have changed. So I thought it'd be kind of fun, because what I used to do with the old Canvas comic, every time we'd have like about 5 chapters, I would put out the concept art and kind of talk about it. And I really like sharing the concept arts with people. I think it's a very fun thing with any, like, creator, and I like sharing that stuff, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to take this image and redraw them as I would today, and how they've changed over time, and kind of talk through it. And I have slides, I have visual aids, I have concept art that I dug up just in case I want to show that off, to kind of see how they've changed through the ages, but I'll also just talk through it at the same time. So these two over here we will redraw, and I think I'll turn down the opacity a little bit, because I might draw over a little bit so we can see some size changes. So, hello everybody, thank you for joining me today on this. Oh yeah, I have the audio off on my other screen, so I can't entirely know how far the lag is, but it looks quite long. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna keep going. So, let's just sketch. But I think first off the bat, you can see that Kawachan has changed a lot. Their height has changed also. Yuna's still pretty short, but she is a little bit closer in height with Kawachan, and I've really kind of goofed that up, made her as short as possible, because she just got very short. But these two didn't really have, like, any story behind them. I think somewhere in here I have the original drawing, and I'll find that, but like, my original comment on Tumblr, because I first posted these guys on Tumblr, and I basically said, are they fighting a dystopian gang? Are they fighting zombies? I don't know. Like, I had no idea what they were going to fight. And actually, I'm sure a lot of people who talk about writing would say it's kind of the no-no to create the characters first. Oh, that's not the brush I want. I'm also fighting a slightly broken keyboard. Just use it a lot because I draw constantly. Let's do the right layer. Oh yeah, the original caption. There it is. Yeah, so it was pretty much just like some Survivor situation where a girl befriends a stranger in a local mascot costume, and the two of them are gonna kick butt. Zombies, dystopian city, outskirt gangs, scary mutant beasts, all of the above. These guys can take them. And then I had probably at the very end. So didn't really know what they were going to do. And then because I just kind of wanted to create a project that was sort of in my creative control, I decided to write a story about them. So the characters came first, the story came after, and some things about that have kind of changed the designs over time, especially once they got their personalities. So, like, already, Kawachan's head was really big, and Kawachan was originally, like, a puppy dog. So I think I've just kind of simplified the ears, kept them very bubbly, and the body has kind of elongated a little bit as well. So there's a very flat bottom of this head. Ooh. It's kind of an easy pose to draw because they are just front-facing mostly. And I ended up actually... So the story with these two, especially Kawachan, was I found... And I'm going to butcher probably a lot of Japanese in the stream, and I'm very sorry about that. I tried to kind of make sure I could pronounce everything. And I know I'm not going to get everything, but I have some things. I found the videos for the mascot, Cheetan, who is an otter. If you've watched, like, John Oliver has covered Cheetan. There's some very interesting kind of story with that. Maybe the arm would go about there. Cheetan basically became this internet sensation. I found a video. It made me laugh so hard that I cried. I thought that was so funny, and I really wanted to make my own, like, mascot costume character and have it exude the kind of chaotic energy that Cheetan exudes, because Cheetan has a bat, has the same kind of basic shape Kawachan has. But already, like, just the basic shape of how I would draw Kawachan. Let me just put these two together. We've really kind of refined the form, a little less, like, round at the bottom. But Cheetan actually ended up inspiring a lot of the design in general because it was a costume that could move a lot better. I'll go to my visual aids, but one of the things that I was able to find when looking up these, because I was just like, I want to create just a character. I liked the idea that it carried a bat, so I looked at just kind of basic mascot stuff, and a lot of the characters they have a very similar shape to Cheetan, but not all of them would technically work. I have a folder called Apocalyptic Unfriendly. So these were a lot of the examples that I looked at that just did not work. If Kawachan was going to be able to move, swing a bat, short arms were not going to work. And a lot of these characters have, like, fake arms, or they're, like, stuffed. That doesn't work, especially, like, this this plane character. I've seen video of this, like, costume wobbling around, and I'm pretty sure it's just the person has their arms within the costume. Everything else is just, they just kind of waddle around, which wouldn't work. It wouldn't work in, like, that kind of story. They would not be able to be active. Even this character has these tiny nub arms. I'm not even sure that the actor's arms are in there. Also found that a lot of these costumes had, like, fans in them to kind of inflate them and make them super round. And making them round was something that I really liked because, you know, mascot costumes are very bouncy and round and adorable, but inflatable costumes were not going to work. And, you know, you remember the famous Pikachu deflating video? That would not work, so I needed a character that could move their hips, their shoulders, and I looked at these examples, and Cheetan was still the same kind of general shape that was probably the easiest to move. Needed shoulders that could move and hips that could move so they could run, they could grab objects. A lot of these characters do not have fingers, but I ended up giving Kawachan 3 fingers and a thumb, kind of very cartoony hands, so that they could still reasonably grab items and move things around. Obviously, they would not have the same dexterity as someone outside of a costume, but they would still be able to do stuff. And Cheetan also had a costume that didn't have a fan system. It was just this bell-shaped kind of dress body that was very, like, plush. and big, but it opened up at the bottom so that the hips could still move. This character can run, and while I started looking at Chiton, I ended up going back and looking at the design that Chiton has because it worked the best. It was still very cute and very fun. It wasn't this thing, which I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it's for like a type of food, and I have no idea what it is. I just saw the picture and I had to add it. So we ended up going with this design still to keep the character there. So one of the other things too, and I'm sure you've noticed, is I've been drawing the costume without worrying about like a character inside. So this kind of makes, you know, the person within the comic right off the bat, haha. The person who would be in the costume is kind of obscured by their like human form. I didn't really want to worry about what the person inside looks like, which a lot of fans have kind of talked about, like, oh, their shoulders are really wide and stuff, and that's just something that I've never really cared about because I just don't think it's important. The character wants to wear this costume, so I don't really want to make them superhuman looking, and that has caused a lot of theories and things. I'm just trying to make this bat sort of work because I don't know if you can tell from the original drawing, it's a little wobbly. I don't know how much. Yeah, I guess this is pretty visual. Trying to make the bat work. So that was kind of a thing that I needed to have. I don't know if this drawing is going to have the same kind of chaotic energy that the old one had, but because those Chiton videos are so chaotic, that's where this look came from. One of the other things, too, is Kawachan had this really enormous face that was super high up, and over time, I remember even showing a friend, like, I had different, I couldn't find this image, but I had different examples of how big Kawachan's face was, and I asked a friend, like, hey, which looks better? And I didn't think the small face looked better. I needed, like, my friend Sammy to really, like, be the second pair of eyes. So, yeah, this little snoot has kind of gotten a little bit bigger. I would say a little cuter. The little, like, animal jowls are a little bigger. And this kind of sculpted mouth in there that kind of probably goes inward a little bit. And then these kind of smaller eyes that look kind of inward. Oh, that's not right. Let's make this eye a little bit bigger. The Kawachan can be kind of hard to draw just because of how round they are. It's really hard to get the shapes working. Whoa! See, this is, if I suddenly zoom, it's because the command key is broken on my keyboard. So if I hit Command Z, sometimes it doesn't register the command part and it hits Z, which is the zoom button. So we'll have a couple times where it'll goof off a little bit. But yeah, these kind of rounded eyes. And then one of the things that I kind of looked at when I was looking at mascots is I really like the design of them compared to a lot of American ones, and I have some examples. American mascots are very, like, human body plus a big head. Maybe, like, they have a gut or something, but they're pretty humanoid, and I put Mickey Mouse in there too because the Disney characters are really well designed for, you know, audience interaction. They're made to walk around and hug children, and I think they work really well. But then you have things like Easter Bunny costumes, which I think are, a lot of people would say are pretty creepy. It's easy to get a cute Easter Bunny costume, but a lot of people have those, like, scary Easter pictures where there's a kid crying on their lap, and they're just not, they're still very human, and I feel like that is kind of weird looking about them. But then you have, like, these, and they look like a cartoon character come to life, which is really what I love about these kind of rounded characters. They're so goofy, and I really enjoy that about these guys. So, but I did still like the idea that there's something unsettling about them, and because we never really see Kawachan outside of the costume, making the character slightly unsettling but still very cute was a goal, especially because Kawachan kind of set the bar on the tone of the story too, because it was a very cute styled story, but it was also like a very dramatic world that they're living in. You know, it's an apocalypse, and the cuteness kind of takes over, but there's still that like unsettling apocalypse, like, you know, you're in a dangerous situation, so you're worried about the characters, and Kawachan is sort of the manifestation of that feeling. And I think a lot of people have been like, I think that's the thing that's so scary about Kawachan with some people, is like, who are they? You know, everyone just wants to know who they are. Some people just want him to be like a really hot boy that Yuna falls in love with. But there are a few little things that I added with this character to kind of add that unsettling part. One was having the eyes looking in one direction, but when you have the eyes kind of tilted inward, you sort of have the direction of the eyes going like in two different directions. It's not super, it's pretty subtle, but it does sort of add this slight googly eye look to them. It still registers that they're looking in one direction, but there is something just off about it. And I do like that. I don't want Kawachan to be like an antagonist, but I think having that slight unsettling feeling helps the tone of the story, because that's sort of where the entire kind of tone of the story went. I'm going to look over at the questions, because it's been a while that I've looked at these. Cool. Yeah, 2 years later, peak Lauren energy. Yeah, Cheeton is great. I really enjoy watching those videos. Will we ever see Yuna's friends again? Yeah, we are going to see them in a flashback. I have not drawn it yet. I work about 14 or 13 weeks ahead of the upload schedule, and that's not including Fast Pass. So that's like wide release. So I work about 14 weeks, now 13 because I have a week off ahead. So I haven't gotten there yet, so we will eventually get there. But yes, we are going to see their friends again. Also, there's this I don't know why the like patch, the pocket had like a little smiley face, but that's kind of always stayed. I don't know why. It seems cute. It's got that like kind of side smile, one eye winking, and then like those Sailor Moon blushies. And that's kind of how Kawachan now looks. Also, let's see if there's that picture of Cheeton. Cheeton also has these really like wrinkled arms, which I think kind of added to Kawachan having these like really wrinkly, oversized arms. Just kind of for fun. And this bell shape. And then I want to see. Actually, yeah, we didn't really have the like cuts. Eventually they became like 3 cuts on Kawachan to show like the claw marks of the monsters, but in the original one there wasn't any. There was just this one and then some scuffs. So they were a little more beat up back then, and now I've kind of simplified it a little bit just for my sake of being able to draw it and not have to worry about so much detail, because you know, that might sound very lazy, but it is kind of important, so I'm not constantly forgetting continuity of things. That's a very normal thing to forget, you know, if a character has, like, you know, you hear people say, like, oh my god, I forgot to put the bandage on their arm for, like, a whole thing. It's hard to remember all the little details that you have to remember. I'm going to actually slim up this body a little bit, because it looks very top-heavy. And Kawachan, both of them are very, like, bell-shaped character. Like, they're rounded, but they're just, like, they get a little wider towards the bottom. That's very similar with Yuna's, like, hairstyle as well. So they kind of complement each other. So that's sort of where an arm would be. Kawachan has these little toes. Kawachan also used to have more, like, dirty feet that I sort of cut out just from, like, switching over to canvas. There was just a lot of detail, especially once color came involved, and I forgot to add it in, and it sort of stayed out of it. It just kind of helps simplify. This bat is very long, so I'm actually going to make an adjustment, move this hand a little closer to the shoulder. Kawachan's bat is a lot longer than Yuna's anyways, but that was ridiculously long. So once we do line art, we will kind of go back in and do that, but Also, with that, like, unsettling two-eye thing, giving Kawachan 3 fingers and a thumb kind of made it, like, a little less human. I just kind of saw this as someone who rather would wear this costume than appear as a person. And I've kind of explained it in the story as, like, it's more of an anxiety thing. Oh, yeah, that's very fun. I just like how this is working. But having these little tiny moments gives that, like, slight uncanny valley. I don't know if that's exactly the right way to put it, but just wanted to make it a little uncanny for the audience. And then there is the broken bow. So one of the bow tops is bent over. It's always bent over. And then there's the slit in the other one. And a lot of people have looked... I've kind of just assumed people understood that this character is, like, filled with stuffing. And some people have thought this is, like, the skin or the bone of, like, a horn, which is not true. That's just the stuffing in the bow peeking out, because this character is very padded up. So that's the general sketch for Kawachan, and I think I'm not loving the pose as much. It's just very wide. So I think I'm going to actually... Let's just give a little... Let's put an elbow out, just for the sake of breaking up this pose a little bit more. I think that's good for now. We'll kind of fluff that in. A lot of this will be fixed up in sketch. So this is actually how I do a lot of my tie-downs for the comic itself. I will just sort of... I usually do, like, a thumbnail pose for each panel, and a lot of times they're just, like that, and then if it's, you know, I'm trying to make sure my editor knows that this is Yuna, I'll do like this, because that's her, like, scrape mark, or if it's Itsumi, I'll do like that, because that's the, or like something like that, so you know that that's not Yuna, that's not that character. So, after I do, like, a stick figure, I will try and do more of this sort of pose, and then do line art, so I will start drawing Yuna right now. So Yuna is... I'm going to actually play around with Kawachan's proportion. I think I'm going to make the body slightly bigger, just because the head is so big. It's not quite proportional to how I usually draw it. I think that's a lot better. So Yuna's gotten a little bit shorter, and I think Yuna's not exactly shorter. She's gotten actually a lot taller. I think if you can tell in the first sketch, she is very, like, she's got a very short torso. And that was something that I really wanted for a while, and then she's kind of elongated over time. But I think that also means that Kawachan has gotten taller. So she goes to about shoulder height. That's usually where we put Yuna. I'll double check the chat. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I love the pocket. Yeah, the pocket's really fun, and there are actually little pockets on the back. I found some concept art of Kawachan with the back pocket, so I'll find those in a sec to talk about. But yeah, I think in the very first panels of the Canvas comic, there was the buttons, or the pockets on the back, that I forgot to draw, so they just kind of went away at the end. So I'm going to draw Yuna without worrying about her height. I'm just going to try and get the general pose. So we'll do sort of generally where her body is going to be, just the shape of her torso, and then kind of her legs. So we get, like, her general height. We can fill in all the rest of the details later. Yuna's a lot easier to draw, and I'm going to draw her in her schoolgirl outfit, because we have done a costume change, and I love the costume change, but for now, just to redraw what it is, we will redraw it as it was in this one. The schoolgirl outfit was pretty nice and easy. It kind of let me flub her torso if I wanted to draw really quickly. I didn't have to worry too much about the proportion of her torso as much. And then drawing a skirt takes a lot of time. The ruffles, there's some really, like, nice panels. That's about where her ear would be. but it just took a lot of time, and I thought it would be kind of nice and symbolic for her to choose a new outfit. So that's where the Monster Mash shirt came from. Nice kind of like growing up moment for her. Now, she doesn't have like the skinniest legs. She's got like kind of thicker legs, but they change over time. I'm not the most consistent, and I would like to get more consistent with her, but now that she has pants, I have to like make sure that she's a little more consistent each time. With the big coat, I can again flub it because it's very shapely, and it adds like a nice puff to her. So her arm is grabbing her backpack strap. And again, her shoulder looks really short. And she is just holding the bat down by her side. I'll do just like a line so we can get just the general angle of the bats. It's a little shorter than Kawachan, so we'll put like handle here or the end here, and then just sort of do some lines. Again, I am sorry if the air conditioning is humming, if that's annoying to people. It is quite warm today. And this is the first day that I've been turning it on, so that's fun. So yeah, that's already proportion-wise. She's a little different. She's not exactly up to heights with Kawachan. So let's see if we can mess around. That's what's nice about this like early stage, is you can like make the sizes bigger without worrying about like the lines getting fuzzy, because that's an annoying thing. Upscaling a smaller drawing. So just trying to make sure also, sometimes when I'm doing like eye contact, I try and do like an actual physical line to show where they're looking. So I think we're going to lift her head up a little bit. Again, this is the nice thing about a quick drawing. Lift that chin so she's looking more up. Yeah. That's a lot better, I think. Okay, so now we'll draw some detail on her. And chin. So it's a very messy sketch, but it'll all work out in the end. So her ear is about here, and her ear doesn't usually show because her hair usually covers it, but it's good to just kind of draw that in. Her eyebrow would be probably around here. We can also make adjustments. And one thing that she has always had is this like awesome slopey pointy nose that I just love. Let's see, is that the expression? Yeah, that's not so bad. That's doing pretty good. Yeah, there's quite a change already. She has these like lashes under her eye too, which has changed over time. She doesn't have the same like intense stare, but I don't think they have that look anymore. Like they don't have that personality. Like I don't think she'd be as spooked. But similar to how there's this like spot on her face, this scrape. Yuna has always had this scrape on her cheek, and that has always stayed. It is just kind of consistent of her like face scar, I guess. And her face has gotten quite round, kind of simplified profile. We don't have like lips or anything. I'm gonna just fix. Itsumi has lips that are kind of more defined, but Yuna does not have that, and quite a few of the characters don't as well. So let's just kind of figure out where her bangs go, which I usually start about here. There's always one bang that like flips up and then kind of goes back over the hair, and then kind of profile. Sometimes it goes like under her ear, and then we just sort of draw lines and make this kind of general bell shape and just sort of finish it off. And that actually might be too short or too long of bangs, so I'm gonna raise those up. Already it looks a little different. There's some inconsistency. Let's see. Just gonna erase some lines so I can get a better idea. Erase this ear because we don't need it anymore. Yeah, that's pretty good for now. Yeah, she's really changed quite a lot. And that's what's kind of fun about this. I didn't practice with redrawing this beforehand. I just wanted to draw it on the thing just to see what would happen. And already we're getting some interesting changes. So we'll draw her collar. Like having her in a t-shirt helps a lot. She has one flipped up one. You can kind of just draw the form a lot quicker and just be on with it. But Yuna has this, like, she's got a little cut in one of her sides. It always flips up on the, I guess, her right side, our left. And she's got this jacket with these, like, puffy collar thing. I'm still trying to make it a little easier to read. And I might move her arm over a little bit. So I think the other thing, and I need to look over here. So yeah, Yuna did not have the hood of her jacket in this very first drawing. That has changed over time, and we'll look at some of the concept art and see if we can figure out where that arrived. I think that was like in the second batch of drawings. That was like a very quick thing that I added on to her. But she's got this like nice thick hood, and I've always kind of seen this as like, this is just a men's jacket, which we'll figure out how it goes back in, because some of the timing of the comic has changed, but in the original, it was revealed that Kawachan, during a flashback that hadn't happened like in the present, Kawachan got the jackets from somewhere, just brought it and gave it to her. So it's kind of a men's oversize. Her hand would be about there. So when drawing the sleeves, to kind of show that, we have the raise up her shoulder a little bit too, make it very bulky, very large on such a small person, but having the like seam of the shoulder kind of go down the arm a little bit more helps make it look really oversized and big. It's got these really nice plush, I guess, cuffs on the sleeves, and it's just very big. Whoops. Very big and fluffy. And I feel like that's not even as puffy as I've drawn it. I feel like it can get quite poofy. So we'll really size up the other side. And maybe like bring it down a little more. So that's just whatever we can to make this look like it just doesn't fit her, but it kind of looks very comforting and nice on her. It's nice and warm. It was given to her by a friend. So we will erase some of these away so we can just kind of see, because the jacket kind of can be a little longer. Yeah, let's just add some length. I'm going to look at the chat because it's been a little while since I looked over. Would you include a Kawachan costume in merch? That would be a lot of that'd be a lot of money, and I'm not entirely sure how that would work to produce, because I don't know if you've ever seen other comic people, but they don't usually make like super big items unless they're a super successful series, and I don't think we have the numbers or the money to produce that kind of merchandise. I would, if someone ever was able to like cosplay Kawachan and make like a full-size costume, I don't think that will ever happen because that's such an expensive like project. I would absolutely die. But then again, I would die if anybody cosplayed them, just because why wouldn't you? So also she's got these like fun patches, like probably like faux leather patches on her shoulders or her elbows, and we are gonna add the one over there. I think it's also, you don't see it on that one, but I want to add it. And she's got these little pocket seams, so, and which probably sometimes get forgotten. So that is the top of the shirt, and when I was looking, and let's briefly switch over to my visual aids. Let's see, for Yuna's, like, this is some of the Google images that I was able to find when I was looking for ideas for her uniform, and I kind of didn't want to make it super, like, it's very hard when you're looking up, like, actual uniforms to try and find, like, school-regulated uniforms, because a lot of them are cosplay images, a lot of them are from, like, a J-drama, which are very, they're made to look cute, and I didn't really want that. I wanted something that was as basic as possible. So I looked at like summer uniforms, and found, especially I think this one was the biggest influence, because this basically looks like how it turned out. It's just a collared shirt, just like a long skirt that goes about to knee length. I didn't really want it to be too crazy and detailed. It's just like, she's not from a big like high school in the city. She's kind of from like a rural, not rural, but like a southern, I would say, little like small town that's got like a little bit of tourism there. She wouldn't have like a school that has like a crazy expensive uniform. I think she's just like a public school kid who, you know, they just have like a very standard uniform, and it's her summer uniform, so it doesn't need to have like the vest and things. The only thing that I really like changed was she doesn't wear like high socks. She wears these tights that are ripped up, and I could have changed them over to make them a little more like realistic, but I kind of liked the look of them. I think the only thing that I would change now is the boots are a little basic, but they're kind of iconic, and they're very easy to draw. They're just like, you know, there's a tie there, and I need to double check. So she's got 2 on one side, 1 on the knee. Okay, so these actually stayed consistent in the comic, but I haven't drawn her in this outfit in a little while, so I forget. And also she has kind of like some messiness to her hair. It's still kind of cleaned up, but it's a little messy. So this is these are our guys. I'm gonna add these a little bit, just to make sure that I add them afterwards. I'll do that in the line part. But this is kind of how I would tie down the characters for the comic, and like ink them over this. So I'm gonna turn the opacity down. I'll try cosplay Yuna one day. Again, even if people give me fan art, like, I'm absolutely tickled every single time. Cosplay would be new because I don't think anyone's done it yet, or if they have, they haven't tagged me in it. So, you know, if it's out there, it's out there. I'm going to get a black. And also, the brush that I'm using right now is, I don't know if it shows up, it's just a drop-down menu. I'm using the Kyle Webster brush pack that is, it comes with Photoshop CC. I'm using Photoshop CC 2019 right now. And the Kyle Webster brushes are free with the subscription, and I've been using them since before Kyle Webster had like a deal with Adobe. Just trying to see. And I tend to use the Amazing Cartoon Nib because it has this feathered look to it. It's a little more inky. I'm actually going to make it slightly bigger. I think we'll try like a 7. No, let's try a 6. That's too thick. But it has this kind of ink brush feel that I do like with my comic. And especially when I do comics, I tend to like more of a traditional looking brush instead of like super, I don't know what you would say, is like super clean uniform brush. So I'm going to take a drink, sorry. It's so humid. But I'm back. Okay. So we're going to go through the stress of trying to make Kawachan look uniform. There is, I guess, to be honest, we could try doing the uniform, like, side-by-side thing. I don't like to use this as much. Where did the vertical go? Okay, there it is. So we move it over here. Move it over here. This way we can try and get the head consistent. I don't use this tool for pretty much any drawing if I can help it. But for now, I think it might be a good idea. So yeah, so we can do this. And at least Kawachan is very symmetrical. But there's a lot of this where you're just like trying to draw the ear. And if I have like a tablet that has like a screen, I'm using an Intuos, which is one of those Wacom Intuos, which is those kinds that don't have a screen on them. They're just, you just draw and you stare at the screen on your computer. And it's easier with a screen for me to draw like a full rounded shape. I get very good at like doing clean lines on there, but it's harder on here. So just trying to get something that is really, really works with what I drew and still looks very clean. So that's actually not so bad. There's some line weight stuff that I'm not super excited about. See, and that's the other thing, is trying to get it to join can be a little hard. Get right on in there and pop them. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we got these ears. They've gotten a lot lower on the head too, and they actually do have an inner ear kind of design that I never draw on Kawachan, because it's another thing to worry about, another consistency. And I feel like this shape works fine. We don't need to see the underside of the ear. And also, that would kind of complicate the shape anyways. It would make it not look as attached to the head. So let's do the nose. Do this little heart-shaped nose, which is in a lot of mascot costumes that I've seen. They have these very, like, heart-shaped noses, and Cheeton does too. Well, let's look at the visual aids. Turn that one off. There he is. Yeah, Cheeton also has this, it's a round nose that has, like, a heart drawn into it. So, Kawachan just has, like, a little black nose. We'll make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And then this. See, it's all coming together. A lot easier than just me doing that. And sometimes I can just get like a good circle. Let's just try it. Let's get a little bigger. Yeah, okay. So this one goes straight through. There's like 3 under lids, under eyelashes. Let's try and get these. See, it's so many like circles, and I try and do everything hand drawn because I do like the inconsistency of hand drawn. Oh, I think. Oh, there we go. But that does make it a little harder. I'm fighting my keyboard a little bit. I'm sorry. Okay, so then we can, and all of the like shading in has. Oh, we can't do that because that'll goof it up. Yeah, that might be what we can do with the face right now. Let's do this, see if we can do the body, but we'll redraw the other side because the fist is kind of poking into the body part of it. So we will just try and get this guy. Ugh. Okay, so I'm gonna call that a day. I'm gonna erase this guy. And the rest should not be symmetrical. So let's get rid of, oh wait, I think I just hit the button. I don't use this a lot. Symmetry off, there we go. Let's fix some of these join parts. I'm gonna make this even lighter so I can see better. Cross this guy over. Make sure this is working. All right, yeah, let's shade in, and I like to keep this kind of scribbly look so we have some white showing underneath. I would make like a little divot in there. Let's add the other guy. Ooh. Yeah, Kyle brushes are really nice. If anyone uses Photoshop and you haven't tried them out, they're free to load. They're really nice to play around with. There's so many of them. This is in the ink, like mega pack. It's in the mega pack, but there's like the ink folder that has a ton of ink brushes, and they're really fun to play with. There's some gouache brushes, there's some oil paint brushes, watercolor, you name it, they got it, and they work pretty nice. I primarily only work in Photoshop for this. I have just recently got Procreate. Procreate's quite nice to play with, but it's not very good for making comics in because it doesn't support the gigantic files that I need. So we will get this guy. Come on. So yeah, what we used to do with live streams was I would produce these comics as like actual like 40-page comics. They were not the scroll format, and I didn't really expect to put them on Webtoon until I found out there was a contest and I was already working on this. Whoop. And I decided, I'll reformat it so I can put it on Webtoon, and the rest is history. But I would make them as like comic book issues, so they'd only be like 40 pages long, and every time I would start a new issue, I would basically, let's start on the bow. I would basically live stream myself inking the first page, and all of those are actually still on here. They're not spoilery, I don't believe, at least not at this point anymore. They're very long, and some of them were so long that they went into like the next day, so there's multiple streams for like one page. And that was very fun. That was kind of a nice tradition, but obviously when we switched over to this, to the original, sometimes they used to call it featured, so I have to remember it's not featured, it's original. Now that I'm in originals, I can't really show off like pages that aren't out yet because I have a distributing thing with Webtoon, and I can't spoil people for anything. I'm not allowed to show much other than like maybe a preview before it comes out. So that's pretty good, but we are actually getting pretty close to where the original canvas version ended before we switched over, because I had to stop production completely so that I could produce it for Webtoon. And I'll show you some of the original like back and forth stuff I did, because I redrew all of the panels and I found some of the like first page to compare sort of the look of these characters, how they changed, how the style changed. The comic used to not be in color, so a lot of things had to switch over. Let's just draw these little fingers. So yeah, big old bubble fingers, kind of these oversized hands, so they're very like wrinkled. Let's get those bats. And Kawachan's not like, once you get through the trying to make this character super round, it gets a lot easier to draw everything else, because they're pretty simple design wise, which is very nice. So we got this. Wow. And then follow the line. That's kind of close to a tangent, but we're just going to call it a day. Nope. There we go. Whew. Yeah, we used to just, I don't know. There's also the fun thing, and we haven't had it yet, but in my old streams, we would almost always have a car alarm or an ambulance or some emergency vehicle go by. So that hasn't happened yet, but it's pretty much tradition that we always have that happen at least one time during a stream. Ooh, excuse me. Oh my god. I drank water. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna drink more water. I'm so sorry if there's slurping noises. I'm like leaning as far away from my laptop as I can. Oh, tangents are so hard. And I don't know if everybody cares about them, like, as I would, but even my editors will point it out sometimes. And I'll be like, oh, what a failure I am. I drew a tangent. They're so easy to mix. It's just mostly when you have, like, two lines meet up in a, I don't know. I'm not in the mind space to explain tangents at the moment, but it's kind of when lines get too close, and, like, if this went super close into the corner, it would match up too well. You want, like, a little bit of overlap and, not everything gathering in the same spots, because it can look very weird. Or if, like, some line also lines up with, like, a horizon, doesn't work as well. So we'll get this big ol' arm. We're getting pretty into it, and I'm not sure if we're gonna color the whole thing. We'll see where this goes, because the original obviously was not colored. It's this pink with like a pink fill and some whites. So I'm still debating if I want to do all of that or match the old style of coloring on here. So we will kind of poof. I'm gonna do some overlap of the poof. Let's do like that. Yeah. Yeah, that was a tangent. I think the other thing when I would do my old live streams was I would constantly like go, no, I hate that, and I would redraw the same thing over and over, and people would be like, what was wrong with it? You just kind of, you get a weird standard. I mean, I'm gonna be my biggest critic, I think, honestly. I mean, who knows? Someone could really outdo me if they have a strong enough opinion, but I will kind of critique my stuff pretty well. We'll give a little bit of, whew, get this bat over here. And do that. Yes, okay. So we'll just round the top. So Kawachan has like a metal bat, and Yuna has like a wooden bat with the spikes. Get these big old fun feet. I think the way that Cheetan does, because you can see a lot of the costume when you watch the videos, but I'm pretty sure there are, like, the guy inside wears his pants, and then the feet are, like, over the pants. I don't know if they're attached, like, if they're, like, sewn here, or if it's, like, his jeans and then he slips on the shoes. But it's pretty interesting, like, especially with a character like Cheetan, because that is such an active mascot. That was one of the things that made me feel better about, like, oh yeah, I think I could write a story about a mascot character in an apocalypse and have it be somewhat believable, because, you know, Cheetan will roll down a hill and the head won't pop off, so you're like, okay, well, it's possible that this can go through, you know, a lot of heavy action and still not, like, fall apart. I don't know how you wouldn't, but it's just very interesting, and it was such a good, like, tool to kind of look at of how this character moves around versus how mine could. And sometimes you have to have some suspension of disbelief. You can't be super serious with it. It's such a goofy idea. Yep, there we go. There's the line. Let's do Yuna now, very quickly. So I like to start with her eyes when I ink her. She's still, add that pupil a little higher. Again, make sure that she's looking up. I'm gonna thin it out. I think it'll make her look a little more surprised. Okay, so she's got some kind of loose lines. It's just a scrape on her shoulder, or her... Listen, I can't talk when I'm sitting and drawing at the same time. Trying to. Looking over, let's see. La 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 la. Hello. Okay. I think it would spoil the story. Yeah. Yeah, reading the old one would be interesting. I've had people talk to me about, like, you know, is there a place where we can read it online? And I really think people are getting a better experience with the new version. Even though a lot of the scenes are redrawn, and I'll kind of show you the first page in a little bit, but like, I didn't trace over a lot of things. I redrew as much as possible, maybe traced to get, like, the layout of certain stuff. But Yuna, in, like, the first couple pages, she looks so weird, and so does Kawachan. They don't look on model, at least how they became, because they evolved over the time of the comic. I wasn't really worried about keeping them super consistent in the beginning because they were new characters to me. I thought this was going to be a temporary project. I didn't really care if they looked a little different. And over time, I kind of got more standards over, you know, what they're supposed to look like. And her hair looks a little too sharp. It's not as fluffy as I would like it. She's got kind of a fluffiness to it. Let's redraw this whole thing. So, just very, very odd stuff. And I think I'm now working in where I am writing new stuff. Not writing, because I did have the writing for the original comic, but I didn't get to draw it out, so I'm now drawing stuff that I never got to draw for the Canvas comic. And it's very interesting not having that visual aid of the old comics, but it's also really nice because I can just draw and not be, like, looking back at these old, like, drawings and getting confused and, you know, oh, I kind of like how that looks, but that's not how it looks now. It's just very, very... It's the way that this has evolved is very strange, and I do see a lot of people who will ask questions. I'm in some, like, webtoon or webcomic, like, groups on Facebook or something, and people will always ask, like, you know, stuff about style and, like, how do you get your style to work, and how do you develop these kind of things. And I feel like over time I just sort of fell into it. It really is kind of a lucky project. But I also think it had a lot of thought put into it. I know it sounds like I just sort of threw something together. That's a bad tangent. Tangent line, not tangent story. But gosh, I I did put a lot of thought and care into the story and how I wanted it to feel, but I didn't really think it was going to be something that I would be focusing on because I was freelancing with other places, I was doing other projects. Even when we got picked up for Webtoon, I was working a full-time job over at Titmouse Animation Studios in New York, and I had to tell Webtoon, like, is it okay if I'm, like, working a full-time? They said pretty much as long as I could work full-time on the comic once it launches, which is why I'm sure people did read the Canvas version. It took so long for me to get it out. Hopefully what I worked on at Titmouse will eventually come out. We'll see. Once it does, I will post it all on social because I'm very excited for it, but I've pretty much just kind of shifted everything over to this now that this is like my job, which is lovely. I do really love these characters. I love this story. It's really fun. But I'm also, even though I said I'm a big critic of myself and my art, like, I'm also pretty good at giving myself some, like, credit. Like, you're one person, you know, sometimes it's not always going to land. And that's the other thing that's really cool about revamping it for original is I got to basically rewrite things. If I had, like, the perfect... let's just say, test audience with my original one, because I could see, like, if people didn't understand something, I could go, okay, now I can redo it and hopefully make, you know, the audience understand some stuff. There was some stuff with, like, a character's name that got pretty confusing with other people, and I kind of rewrote some stuff to, like, fix things where the audience was a little confused, and that's kind of... It's stressful having to go back and redo your whole thing after you've been working on it for like a year and a half, but it's really nice to be able to get the opportunity to go, okay, I can revamp this now that I have the time and the money to do that. When it was a free comic, my attitude was very much like, you know, it's a free comic. It's going to have some issues. It's going to be kind of rushed sometimes. I've got other jobs I need to work. This is my pet project, and I was okay if, like, some things didn't work out so well, and I still am, you know, if things aren't 100% incredible and the audience doesn't like something, you just kind of have to learn from it and move on. Luckily, so far, I think, like, because we've been able to rewrite things, we haven't had so much confusion, except, you know, with, like, character, like, Itsumi's gender and stuff like that, which doesn't really bother me that much. Just a lot of people. It's very interesting also comparing the theories that the original people had versus what we have now. A lot of the same stuff, some different stuff. We didn't have, you know, the number of readers we had before, so we drew in a lot more people, and we can hear a lot more voices, and it's just very interesting. Very, very excited that people have been enjoying it so far on Webtoon. You know, can't really complain. Everyone's been so lovely with it. I'll look over and see what people are typing, because I will just kind of start drawing and I won't look. Okay. I'm glad that you like the line art being crisp. I'm trying very hard. It's really weird when you have, like, a live stream and you have to kind of perform a little bit. Yeah. I will remember if you want to publish your comics physically. Yeah, it's mostly up to date. We're still going through it. Yeah, it's really nice. Being in Webtoon is very interesting. I obviously have always really loved webcomics, but I didn't really know... I mean, Webtoon wasn't a thing when I was younger. Like, you pretty much just found someone's, like, website, because a lot of people just self-hosted on a website. Also, she's got these great triangle feet. Again, there's some things, like, that are very... Even with this character, it's a blend of simple versus like, detail, which is kind of fun. Yeah, someday, who knows, maybe I'll publish something physically. That would be a really fun thing to do. A lot of work. I don't know if Yuna and Kawachan would ever get that, but then again, it's a free comic online, which I do like. I like that people can just read it. That's kind of the really cool thing about Webtoon. I didn't really... There were hosting websites, but they usually were like a team of people that just kind of signed off on different artists. I can't remember a lot of those, but they would just be like a group of webtoon or webcomic artists that would just post on the same website, and they'd have like different sections on the website for each one of them. And then other people would have like, you know, their own website you could visit, and I would save like DeviantArt accounts, I'd save those websites, I'd save, you know, the hosting websites that people had, and just save them, and I would check them every single day down the lists for years. And I wish I could remember some of the other ones that I read because it's been so long. But I always wanted to do comics. I loved like DC comics. I thought Batman comics were really great when I was younger. And oh gosh, this line is not straight. Come on. There's always one line that's just not going to work. It's just a little, it's like bubbling out a little bit. That's much better. Look at that. Hole in her tights. Yeah, also not having to like fill in the tights helps with the new design. With like her having jeans. The jeans and t-shirt, I did see a couple of people like, oh, I don't like it as much. But I think that's also just, it's just easier for me for me to draw. Although, like, learning how to redraw her hips was very weird because I had been drawing her in this, like, she's just this triangle body. So giving her, like, an actual human form was kind of nice, but also a challenge. It's very interesting. You don't draw something for a little bit, and then it's like, oh, God, I don't know how to draw this person again. That happened with a lot of the characters we just met this week. If you guys read this week's updates, we just met a few more characters, and just trying to get, like, remembering how to draw them was a challenge. And even over the course, because like I said, I work about 13 weeks ahead. I just trying to double check. Okay, like there are characters in like their first chapter that don't look the way that I draw them now. Like there's like they're very subtle differences, but I'm like, oh, the nose shape's a little different. Like it's evolved over the last like 14 weeks. That's a lot of time to like kind of have some adjustments. So that makes a lot of sense that there would be some, you know, deviation of the design. But then I'll read it updating and I'm like, ooh, I don't like how that looks. That's where it's like I'm a big critic of myself, is I'll look at the chapter and be like, oh no. I think last week's chapter, something must have happened and some of the text got a little offsets. Nobody brought it up, but it drove me crazy. It must have just been like I moved a folder a little bit and it was set for like move the entire group content versus the layer. So there's her bat. So that's pretty much the line art. I'm going to turn off the sketch. We're going to do her hair, which is like a big ordeal. And as you can see from the original, it was very like inky and messy. And it's kind of been refined over the years. Again, that was that thing of like, I just wanted to like draw inky hair and like highlights. Double checking this thing. Blah, 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 blah. Double checking. Okay, cool reference. Yeah, Titmouse. Titmouse did work on the opening for Last Airbender, but they didn't work on the whole show. They did, they do a lot of things. They did Midnight Gospel, which was in production while I was there, which is on Netflix. We stand a triangle foot. Yes, we do. I don't know if this would work as an animated series, only because you have a main character who doesn't speak. Now that we have more characters to kind of have conversations, maybe that would be a different thing. But I don't know if it would work as well as a comic. Who knows? If someone approaches me to do it, I will ask to be on the team because I work as an animator and storyboard artist. That's what I was doing at Titmouse. I wasn't animating. I was a storyboard revisionist on a show that has not yet come out. Hope it does soon. It's not for your age demographic. It's for young baby children, but I'm still very excited for it. And that's all I'll say for it, because it has not been announced and I'm not really allowed to talk about it. But it's not as exciting. It's not going to be like an Avatar Last Airbender kind of thing. It's for preschoolers, but it's really cute. Someday I'll post it all over social because I'll be very excited. But yeah, if this ever became an animated thing, I'm not entirely sure if it would translate as well. But it would maybe, I would probably do like, I would sign off on people being able to mess with the pacing a little bit, because I think it would benefit like some rewriting for animation, which you never know if fans would like that. I mean, I'd want to keep like a general story thing, but you know, you might have characters be introduced earlier than they are in the comic, just so that we can have more like discussion and talking. Although, you know, I think other than like up until they meet Itsumi, they pretty much are with other people, except for that section after they leave Junichiro and, you know, are traveling by themselves. But, you know, you need those chapters. I think it's good to show those two, like, kind of, they're very good friends, and they're very good at working off each other, and Yuna's a very understanding person, and she's very good at, like, helping adapt, like, Kawachan's needs, I guess. I know that might be a little... I don't know if needs is the right word, but like she's very good judge of character and can kind of tell when Kawachan needs like some time to talk. But that's before they have the notebook, which we just now have. And I think it's good to show like where there's some faults in their relationship. They're also very codependent because they're in like, you know, a post-apocalyptic situation and they only have each other. So there's, you know, bound to be some issues. But I don't know if I'm trying to remember if there's like some good examples, but shows and stories where the characters like fight constantly, like I hate that. I want like I needed them to like work out some issues and get over it so that we can not have to deal with like the constant back and forth of like, and now they're fighting again, which I hate. And I don't think it would work really well for these two. Yeah, so this is the line stuff. So I'm gonna just look over at some of the reference stuff that I found. This is obviously that. Some of the inspiration stuff, like before Kawachan ever came to be, I mean, these are kind of some of the things that I remember growing up because I'm from the US, I'm not from Japan, but like certain Japanese mascots kind of became big in the US. Domo-kun, if anyone was a teen in the Hot Topic era of like the mid-2000s, Domo was on so much merchandise. He's basically a mascot for a public broadcasting network in Japan. He's just like from these stop motion skits, I guess. Gachapin was in the Read My Mind video for The Killers, which I was watching yesterday to like remember like how like what characters have I seen growing up. And I absolutely was delighted by Gachapin. I think I've always liked mascots, but like didn't really put a name to it until now. So there, you know, you've got also like Sanrio characters like Hello Kitty. A lot of toys, merchandise, books, stationery had like these characters on there, and you didn't really think about them as being like a Japanese mascot. But also when looking through like mascot stuff and mascot culture, which I was very interested in after I found Chiton, it's so strange. It's very like a lot of them are for companies, but the thing that I really liked was I found this like the outline for the fundamentals of Japanese mascots are they usually have to have a strong message, love for one's hometown. They're very funny, they're awkward, their movements are unstable, and they have to be kind of unsophisticated, laid back, and lovable. And I can cut off 3 completely because Kawachan isn't in character, it's the costume. But I liked the idea of the mascot costume representing a hometown, which in kind of a like apocalyptic setting where you don't really have when you kind of have that loss of your normal life, I feel like having a character that represents Yuna's hometown is kind of a small thing that obviously she would kind of care about. It's, you know, it's something she carries with her with this character. And I looked at a few that were mascots for like towns and things. Like Kumamon is not for a town, it's for the entire like Kumamoto prefecture, specifically for the train line that like opened up. Kumamon became super big. It's really one of the biggest mascots I think right now that they have, or at least well known. I don't know if it's like the most famous, but it represents a whole section. It represents a train line. It's for tourism. It's to get people to come to the town. And I thought that's kind of what I wanted Kawachan to be, not like the police mascot or a company mascot. The other one that I really liked, Nango Star. Nango Star actually inspired the name because I didn't know how to name Kawachan, I was very, like, it's easy to name, like, any person of any, like, era or any country, culture. If you look up a list of baby names from that, you can find it. You can look up, like, names popular by decade or year. If you look up, like, records of, birth certificates and names and social security names. But Nyango Star kind of helped me name Kawachan because I kind of watched a Vice article, not an article, it was a video that Vice did about Nyango that was like, it broke down the name, and basically Nyan is meow in Japan, and also Ringo Starr is the drummer for the Beatles, obviously, and Nyango Star is a ghost cat that possesses an apple, and Ringo also means apple in Japanese. So it's a cat, apple, drummer, Ringo Starr, cat, apple. So I tried to look up, like, different, like, geographical landmarks in Japanese, and I did find a list of, like, vocab words in, like, Japanese, and I found that kawa meant river. And there might be other words for river in Japanese, that might not be the only term, but on this list, it said kawa was river. Kawaii is the word for cute, so it was very close to that, and also I had planned on Yuna falling in a river at the beginning anyways, so I was like, oh, cool. That's kind of interesting. So the untold story is, like, this is a mascot for a town that has, like, a big river system that runs through it, and it's Kawachan. So cute, river, I stuck Chan at the end of it, and that just kind of worked really well with that. And so here's some, like, the very first page of drawings that I did. Already I can see that Yuna has her hood, but these were the drawings that I did right after I created that very first one that I redrew. I was trying to figure out how Kawachan worked, and also Yuna in her uniform without the hood. It's a lot of Yuna with, like, a bloody nose. But there's her hood. So just trying to figure out, like, how she works, the line style, so you can still tell there's this very, like, inky sketch line for these that I refined a little bit for the finished look. This is one of the first drawings of these two together. Again, the face on Kawachan is a lot. It's so strange. Kawachan is so wide, but I really like this pose. I feel like it's a really fun drawing. I think I redid it a while ago for possibly for assets for Webtoon, and I'll find that somewhere, but I don't have them here. Obviously the hug, and I think this drawing itself changed, like, the height difference, because Yuna is a little shorter in this one, and this one I think also was a step in the direction of where Kawachan went from here and there. Some concepts of Yuna with her hair up, some ideas of how she carries the thing in the backpack. Also, there's a thing I forgot to talk about. Yuna has a sword. I kind of figured she has, like, a training, like, staff from, like, a school, like a kendo club staff, but it has, like, that it has that handle that's on katanas. That obviously did not get added. That was a little overkill, I thought, but again, this was just for style. This was not a story. These were just characters. The sword eventually went to Itsumi, and she obviously got her sword from the store that she runs. So that changed. Also, Kigurumi costume, would love to have one. No idea how to make those. Sounds like an expensive venture. And then I believe this one has some of the shirt designs. So also some fun, like, fantasy costume things going on. Yuna wearing the head. Again, we didn't really know. We were playing stuff out. And just these guys hanging out. I think this was actually a drawing for an update for, like, the canvas thing. Also, there's showing off the little heart feet, because Kawachan has little heart feet on his little feet. Then we have the shirt designs that eventually happened. I kind of like the idea that there are these shirts, not just in Japan. I would guess, like, any, like, Asian store where you can kind of get just a random English phrase on it. And I really liked Monster Mash. There's kind of a Anna Caddish look. She's an artist. But eventually I went back to this like jaw thing, and I've simplified it since then. But this was kind of the concepts of Yuna without having the school uniform. And she did actually used to have like a long sleeve t-shirt underneath, which got cut because I actually forgot. So here are the very first turnarounds I did. This was before the comic came out. Again, this was with the big face. I think this was actually the thing that I said earlier where I sent to a friend, like, does this face work or does this face work? This is the one that didn't work. The eyes are so big, but we can still see this kind of wide, the ears are really long and floppy, and there's those back pockets that I forgot to draw. So both of them got a little taller. They're a little, like, compact right now. And then this was what I drew for Webtoon. It was the very first color test I did of them to kind of pitch for the pitch. They came to me. They said, we'd like to pitch your idea. I sent them as much as I could. So this was the test of drawing them. So now that we've kind of seen them in the color, here is kind of the comparison of the first page to the comic. So already some things like the kicking, I pointed with my finger to the screen. That doesn't work. The kicking shots, that was pretty much very close, but you can even tell like the can is different. I've redrawn the can. I just drew over it, but you can even see with like her hair. It was so stringy back in this day. Oops, sorry. It's very stringy, and it kind of got a little more simplified with this one. Not only did like some of the panels change, but some of the the sequence of panels changed. But you can see how I redrew some frames, restructured them for a different ratio. This one is very close to how it used to look. I think no, actually it's still a little different. I redrew like the height of it. It's got more like top to it. So this is actually the old way we did it. Yuna had a plaid skirt, and that was just too much for like the coloring. I just needed to be able to do it faster because you have to do these in a week, and just trying to focus on giving her a plaid texture in every single shot was not going to work. And then more of like the characters and how they've changed. So Yuna's face has changed a lot. She had a really pointy chin in the first couple panels. Kawachan, there's like the only time Kawachan's back pocket appeared in the comic. Kawachan is so round. A lot of these have changed, specifically also like expressions too, you know, having Yuna laugh a little more. I just saw something like shift. And just kind of the way that like the information shows panel to panel, it's changed a little over time, and I think it changed for the better. I do really like how the old one was colored. I like that very simple pink look, but they did tell me that it was not going to be as marketable, because I guess more people do look at colored comics over non-colored. So Webtoon did tell me that we needed to focus on doing a colored comic, so some things had to go, like the plaid skirt, but I think it turned out really well. And even in this first chapter, I was still trying to figure out how the color worked. I actually had, while I was looking for these, I found some of my color tests that I sent to Webtoon. None of these, like, changed, but I colored the very first page and sent them over to Webtoon to be like, these are some possibilities of different like styles that we could do with the backgrounds. I kind of liked like this one because it was very kind of dingy, but I think they didn't understand that I was like, I want pink in every panel, so I had to kind of show them what I meant. So even though these did not work, that still kind of showed, you know, the Webtoon editorial team what I was talking about when I wanted like a pink look to all of them, and some of them look very similar, but they're just subtle changes, subtle like layer effects over what I colored. And I do think we changed for the better. I think what we have now is kind of the best, and there's some really, I think there's some great palettes in what we have now, especially the nighttime scenes or the evening scenes. They're lovely. So I'm still not entirely sure if we are going to color this whole thing. I think we have the time to. Yeah, let's do it. So this is my coloring sheets. These are very just quickly made. I made them while I was working at Titmouse. I'm actually going to double check the things because I haven't looked at these in a while. But this is just for me. I have different layers that I can like add over and just grab and drop. Especially, and I haven't needed it yet, but if I do need like a friend to help me color, I can just take a screen cap of the outfit needed. Like I have, you know, the Monster Mash. And I can turn them off at will, so I can, you know, you don't need all that information. I can simplify the palettes. These took a little while. They're a little off model too, but also I do like how we kind of got Yuna. She started to get those like big eyes. Her face has definitely gotten more round over the years. So let's get her the jackets. And let's just do that. So I'm gonna just start with Yuna because she has the most complicated palettes. Kawachan's a lot easier to manage. Let's go back over here. Okay, so I'm gonna just make another layer. We'll just do some flats. I don't know if we're gonna do any like shading because there's no shading in the other one. Let's just do shading. Really, just depends on the scene that we're in. Double checking the thing. Yeah, I'm glad people are enjoying the new characters. I mean, they've just been released. They've just come in. Yeah, Nangosar is great. Name generators online are great too. Obviously, you need to check a lot of them, and I think I really like looked at different. How should we say backgrounds? Double check this. I looked at like many different lists. I looked at like popular Japanese names, especially with Yuna. Yuna showed up on a lot of like popular lists, and it just, the more you kind of looked at her versus the name, I was like, yeah, she looks like a Yuna. I think that's who she is. I'm going to, actually, before I do that, I usually put like a gray so that I can get the whites in her hair a lot easier, but right now the skin is more important. So let's do that. I'm going to just take a nice round, hard brush. Yes, that's good. And just kind of draw this in. Willy-nilly. Coloring can be fun and it can be very tedious, but right now it's not as tedious. I think it's tedious when you have a very long program of comic panels and you've got to do them all, especially with now that we have new characters. A lot of the ones that I worked on where there's like 5 or 6 characters in the same chapter plus like background characters, because now we have like crowds and things. It can make it a lot more tedious than like a chapter with 2 characters where you don't have as much, as many panels to jump around or as many palettes even to like switch through. So coloring is very interesting, and I think that's why I didn't color in the original, because I wasn't getting paid to do the comic. It was just kind of for fun. It was for me and whoever wanted to read it, so I didn't really feel like I needed to make sure I got both of those. I didn't need to spend all my time coloring, so I developed a style, which was that pink style that was a lot easier, a little more manageable. Oh, wrong layer. This layer. For me to draw with like a job, because especially with freelancing, I would sometimes be off work for a week or 2 or even a month, and I'd have all this time to work on the comic, and then I would get an email like, oh, we need you for work at this studio, and I would be busy for like a month or 2 or 2 weeks, or I'd be working nonstop and I wouldn't have any time to work on my comic. So I would basically have like a month hiatus between every issue, which would be about 5 chapters, because like I said, I made them like comic book issues. So that actually worked. Like, it was enough that I was on break a lot, and I was constantly working on it. Those breaks were just to get like the next batch ready. But it was enough that I was able to keep things pretty consistent even with a hiatus every other month. So we would upload for a month and then take a month off while I would be working, and then as I was uploading, I was working on the next chapter, and then I'd take that next month off to finish the chapter, and then once I uploaded those chapters, I would be starting on the next one while those are uploading, and then, you know, overlapping, so on and so forth, which is, it worked. It worked pretty nice, but now that this is like a paying job, I can actually spend, you know, time on it, which is, you know, that's what you want. It's so hard to, like, get to that point, and, you know, I didn't really expect that I would fall into this, and I'm kind of happy that it somehow worked out in a weird way. Okay, so I'm going to grab her shirts. I'm going to grab her skirt color, go back over, switch on over, and then once I get, like, these light colored ones, I will switch back to a white background so I can see a little better. But the shirt is, like, her hair is a full-on white, and the shirt is kind of a slight bluish. So there is a difference, and I don't know why I you know, bother not making them the same white. It's fine. It's okay. Just let me do what I want. Cool. So now we'll add the skirts. At least this was a very easy costume to color. Wrong thing. Trying to hit all my key commands. I got a keyboard cover to help me with that one key that's broken, because my command key is not attached anymore. So I have it just kind of sitting on top, because especially with, like, if you touch it with your finger, it will stick to your finger and fall off. So we got a nice keyboard protector to keep it in place, and that's all good. It was a couple weeks of just like, oh no, and of course it broke right when quarantine happened, and for those of you who don't know, I'm in New York, where it was quite bad. It still is, but, like, it's, you know, things are starting to kind of reopen a little bit here and there, but it was, you know, right when I could have just had a day where I pop into the Apple Store or Best Buy and just like, hey, I need just a key to get fixed, a very simple fix, because I tried to fix it myself, and I think I made it worse. I think I had, like, one bracket of the key, because there's, like, tiny little brackets underneath every keyboard key, and one was broken, but I tried to hook the other ones together so that they wouldn't, they would kind of stay in place. But I think I broke all of them doing that, so I figured I'm just going to go get a professional to do it, even though it is something that you can kind of do on your own. But, you couldn't do that, so I just got a keyboard protector, and we're gonna call it a day. It's fine. We just, you know, you adapt as you go. It's not the worst, you know, computer issue to have. It's very easy to manage, especially if you can just keep it on there. The keyboard protector does that. And you can get them that they're, like, printed and very aesthetic. So, of course, mine, I bought two that are very aesthetic, very fun. It's kind of pink and swirly. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I love that she's got this army green. And even though I did show earlier that I was like, oh, this is the first color test, I did actually have, like, I think I did a watercolor years ago. Years ago would be, like, 2 years ago. Where I did their colors, but it was more of, like, a landscape, and they were in it, so it wasn't super big. And Kawachan actually had, like, a lavender colored overall, but Yuna had, like, this army green, these tan sleeves, and that stayed. And then I eventually switched Kawachan a little bit, so I'm gonna just fill that in, fix these lines, and then also the cuffs are green. So I would love a sweater or a sweatshirt or jacket or whatever this is. It just seems very comfy, and I think because being cute is kind of like the character design. Obviously, she's very small and adorable, and she's got this big oversized comfy jacket, and it just kind of makes her feel very cozy. But she's also very self-sufficient. She can take care of herself. She's very optimistic, and, you know, is dealing with a lot, and in some weird ways, some of the things that she's dealing with are similar to what some people were, especially, like, not being able to go to school, or, you know, saw a couple comments when that happened. Like once the lockdowns started and people were like, you know, how weird is this that I'm also not able to go to school like Yuna? And I was like, oh no. Very, very weird year we're having, but we're getting through it, right? I guess. Alright, let's get this jacket working on her sleeve. Coloring is not the most exciting part of it. I feel like line work is a little more fun because there's so much changing. But if it's relaxing enough, that's what we're here for. We're here for the relaxation. This is my week off. I've been working pretty much straight until I think this is like the 20th. Last week was like my 20th week in a row working. So I was told to take a break. I was actually supposed to go home around this time because my sister was going to be graduating, and I was going to be visiting, leaving New York, going to visit back at home. And that can't happen anymore, so they did tell me I should still have a week off anyways. So this is my week off. It's very lovely. I've had a nice, relaxing week. I don't really know what to do when I'm not working, but I'm learning. I'm trying to see this line. The sun is in my eye. I'm in front of the window, so I'm trying to get a good look at this. But I hope everyone else is having like a good beginning of the summer. It's getting hot, you know, at least here, not everywhere, but I'm going back. New characters, blah blah blah. Yeah, Walking Dead. Walking Dead is not my favorite. I've never read the comics, so I can't say anything about that. They're probably really, really great. But the show was never really my favorite. I stopped watching after 2 seasons. But there's definitely, I mean, there's got to be a lot of influence of different zombie genre stuff. You know, 28 Days Later, and there's even a reference to 28 Days Later in one of the, I think the next one that's coming out. But my editor said that not all the readers might know what that is, so we cut it out. But Toma, the new character, mentions it in the old version, and we cut out that reference just because I realized that, oh yeah, we might have some younger viewer stuff, even though that's not really my favorite genre. I don't love, like, they're very much all the same. Not like mine is like the most original in the whole world. But they're usually like a dad who lost his daughter or something. He like has to save his kid or save a baby or save a adopted teenage girl. And I like those. I especially like video game ones, like the Telltale Walking Dead series, and I guess Last of Us, the first one, which I've never played, but I've watched playthroughs of both of those games. And I like those ones, and those are very sweet, and they have a lot of these like family moments, and you know, I clearly wanted to tell a story about friendship, so there's some of that in there. It's not really a romance. Let's just get between the hair. But you know, you're always going to have some overlap of those very popular genres. Okay, so that's the jackets. Let's see. Let's do them elbows and the backpack. Okay. These kind of faux leather sleeve things. Yeah, I feel like this is maybe not my all-time dream jacket, but this is like one of my dream jackets. I would love like something like this. Big and fluffy. Got these cool details on it that are simple, but kind of cool. Woo. Drawing outside the lines and not... Oh my gosh. Hang on. Nope. Hang on. Okay. Forgot I don't have that color mixed in. I usually grab 2 different colors and I'll switch between them with like the key command X. We'll switch the colors. But I forgot I didn't have the color for her sleeve ready. Alright. Oh my god, it's so sweaty in here. I'm gonna grab some water. Stepping back so I don't make noises as much. Great. I'm back. Okay. Yeah, the backpack actually, let me see if I can go back. Let's go back to my visual aids. the compare ones. Let me see. So I think Kawachan is this color. I tried to take a few colors out, but I'm trying to see if Yuna's like this color. I think this was a slight variation. Oh, no, wait. Is it the... Okay, yeah, so this color is I think the color... Oh, no, they're slightly different, too. I think I slightly changed it, but some of the original palette is in these characters. Somewhere, I guess. There was like the text color, there's the line color, the shading color. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do her boots and her bats. Because if I couldn't have like that full like pink color scheme, I wanted to save some of that palette in these guys. So they have some of their old colors in there. And that's why the backpack is like such a vivid pink. It's because it's supposed to be very similar to the old drawing style. I have my iPad open next to me. I can kind of see the live stream in the corner of my eye. It looks chaotic because I think I was switching through certain things. I'm sorry if I like switch through pages very quickly, and it's dizzying to watch. But she's almost done, and then we'll do Kawachan, and then we'll be pretty much done with these guys. And Kawachan's a lot easier because even though they are just all pink, pretty much very simple palette. It's so much more simple than Yuna is. Yuna's jacket takes a while because there's all these little bits and pieces. Oh yeah, the boots are up here. It's like, which color brown do I pick? And also, I think that's kind of nice with Yuna picking like a new outfit. It's a very cutesy like style, and they're kind of very cutesy to match that tone of the style in the comic. But her outfit is pretty like earthy, earth tone, and it's kind of nice when she gets something that's a little more vibrant. It's like the shirt that she gets from the shop. It makes her feel a little more confident, I think. Some color ideas, color theories and things. Again, like I said, I do think about things. It's not like I just, oh, whatever, the design is whatever, it'll change over time. We try. We try and think things through here. Alright, so she's got color. Let's do our little guy, Kawachan. They have mostly pink and blue. So yeah, so I'm gonna get like a big pink. Let's make the brush big. Yeah. Just kind of go around. Oops. Try not to do outside the line too much. Yeah, as frustrating as Kawachan can be to draw because of, trying to make those shapes so round and so uniform, coloring is so much different because it's very rounded and easy for like a big fat brush to get in there, which is just kind of relaxing. So I usually save Kawachan to color at the very end. I will color all the like people palettes, and then the costume palette gets very last because it's so much nicer. And also because Yuna is the character that has to like react to things, it's a lot easier to have her in most of it. Like, she's the one that reacts. Kawachan doesn't appear as much, at least in terms of like panel number per chapter. So I'm just gonna round off this guy, this line. We'll just fill it in. Oops. Oh, see? We always have a siren. Every single time. Unless we had one before and I wasn't paying attention, but this is the first time I've noticed. Sometimes they go down the street, like right in front of my window, so that one's definitely not going to do that. It's not coming this way. Oh, yeah. Okay. Fill that up. This is so much easier than Yuna's palette. Just goes so much faster because so much like bigger areas just are one color. There's less detail. Very fun. And of course, Kawachan had to be pink because that was like the whole color of the comic. It was all pink. I don't think they could be any other color. Like, I mean, they could be. They could be like a yellow or like a nice blue. But let's see. Let's get in there. Just careful. Okay. Here we go. Okay, just the feet. Then we do that big old tummy. Yeehaw. I'll check the chat. It's been a while since I've looked over. Yeah. Also, yeah, if people, I hope people are enjoying Avatar. If you have Netflix, one of my favorites. I actually had like some style sheets, like some possible inspirations. I didn't really go into this thinking like, oh, I'm gonna make it look like Avatar, but I do think because Avatar came out when I was 13 and I grew up with it. I watched the first episode the day it aired. I loved it so much. I have a feeling that like some of the stuff, some of the stuff probably influenced it, even though I didn't really think about, making Yuna look like Aang. I do think like the proportion of Aang's face with the big eyes, probably kind of crosses over into Yuna a little bit. Alright, the pink is done, I believe. Now this blue. Just kind of fill in that tummy. But yeah, I'm almost done watching Avatar. I'm over halfway through season 3 for my rewatch. I'm watching it with my sister. We're watching it very slowly. Not very, but, trying to take our time through it because it's so good. It's one of the best shows ever. Everyone should watch Avatar. This is how you know the stream's been going, is when we're like, okay, watch Avatar. And this will be good, too, because I have to jump off at least at 6, so we have plenty of time. I'm not going to run over. And then if people are still here, there's not like a ton of people here. This is just a fun little hangout. If people have questions or anything, I will hang out for a few more minutes after this is done. Or we can chat or something. I don't know. I don't do live streams all that much. I've seen other people and they're just like, we're gonna hang out, and they have like a game planned, and I don't have a game plan. Like, I'm gonna color something, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. So, because you never know if your internet just dies in the middle and then everything is ruined, and that's happened before. That's the stressful thing about live streams. You just don't know if it's just gonna drop in the middle, huh? So far, we've been doing pretty good. No lagging that I can tell. I mean, we might have. I have my screen on muted because my voice would probably be echoing horribly if I had it on. I just have it open so I can read the chat box. Fill in that bow. Yeah, and I don't do a lot of streams because I feel like I ramble a lot and then I'll just repeat myself. So probably good to not do them all the time, or you just get the same thing over and over again. And at least people can like rewatch these. But it is interesting, like trying to keep like drawing while talking is an interesting thing. Especially, I'm sure I've like forgotten words. I think I've called like her elbow, her shoulder. I can't really grab onto words when I am focusing a little bit of brain power on drawing. Okay, cool. See, like already Kawachan with only 2 colors is basically mostly colored. So we'll do the yellow, we'll do the whites, and then, oh, no, that's the wrong one. Whoop, B. Just kind of very soft primary colors. Kawachan is very cute, very adorable. The color palette has to have that also in there. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Hello Kitty, just like very soft. Not really. And then the same yellow is used for the packet with the goofy smiley face on it. What was there? And I'll put these up on Instagram side by side too, but I'll zoom out so we can see them next to each other. Oop, come on. Alright, and then the whites of the eyes. I usually do those after, so I can just go over the yellow. See, there's like an order to like what colors work best in a row. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, so the mouth colors are the next ones. We'll do the inner mouth and the tongue. And make sure I open the right one. So the inner mouth is a lot darker. This was the text color. It was like, it might not have been the text color. I think this was the line color of the original comic. It's a little darker, so it can be like the black line, but still kind of fun and like raspberry looking. It works really well for the inner mouth. And then I believe I think this is the same as the backpack pink. So it's very similar to like the panel line. Get that little pink tongue in there. And then the same like bright pink is for the buttons. See, we simplify the color scheme a little bit. But also that just feels like how a like cartoon character would be. They would really try and maximize how like simple a palette could color, you know, Kawachan. So let's do the bat color. And the bat, like I said, is kind of this metal, more of a metal bat. Kind of reminds me of like one that my neighbors had growing up, just like a little softball bat that they had that we would swing around. So, you know. And also, it's been a while since I've drawn Kawachan holding the bat, but there was something that I actually saw in a Cheetan video where Cheetan basically will put the bats like in the leg and will like lift up this to like pull it out of the leg hole. So I just kind of assume that's where Kawachan keeps the bat, is just like tucked into one of the feet when they don't need to carry it. So it's always there, always in reach. It's just kind of funny. Eventually I'll have to show that because I haven't gotten there yet, but that's where the bat goes if you ever wonder. And sometimes also they show Yuna will carry it in her bag. She'll just kind of like double pack her backpack with both of them. One will go one side, come out like one shoulder, the other will come out the other. Because she carries the supplies. Alright, so the last thing, the very, very last thing is the stuffing bits. So in here, we have this color, and all of the stuffing bits are the same kind of tan color. We'll do like a very short Q&A, I'm sure, after this. Let's see, we're so close. And then I'm going to put just a basic light filter over the characters, because that's, there is this, like, flat color, and the blue is super vibrant right now, but if you put, like, a pink overlay or, like, a hue layer over top of it, it makes the layer look super, kind of muted. Let me do blah, 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 blah. Just going to add a pink. Add a pink, add a pink, add a pink, pink, pink. A little lighter pink. And then we'll do hue, which makes them all this like pink color, and then we turn it to about 40%, and that kind of tones down that blue a little bit. So that is basically how I now have changed these two from the original, which is very different looking at them side by side, and how they are structured. So it's very strange. Let me just kind of pop these guys over a little bit. Is that right? Oh yeah, just give them a little more space. So yeah, that's Yuna and Kawachan over the course of 2 years. That's how they have changed. It's especially with Kawachan. Yuna, not so much, but proportion-wise, she has changed a lot. I'm going to go back through and read some more, but I'll leave this up while it goes. Oh, memory, la la. Yeah, goodbye, people who have to leave. I know it's. I used to do them a little later at night. But yes. What's your favorite fan theory that isn't true? Oh, Sammy peaced out. She's my friend. But Sammy, that you already know, yesterday we had somebody comment on one that said that I might be a time traveler, and I am warning the future with my with my comic. Basically, that's my favorite theory that isn't true. Um, Thank you guys for enjoying like the coloring. I'm just going through here. Are the overalls removable? No, the overalls are just, it's one big like body, and I'm sure it's just like pieces of fabric that are just kind of sewn together to make this like bell-shaped, let me see. I assume Kawachan's like outfit is basically like, it's this big round thing like that, and you can like put your like legs through at the bottom, but it's independent, and it just has like the overalls are a part of this thing. So that is the body of the costume. It's just sort of its own thing, and that allows like the person inside to be able to like, I drew a very skinny person, but they can move their legs as they want to, so it allows a little more mobility, a little more believability with Kawachan being able to run around and do stuff. Hi, not sure if you mentioned this earlier, but how do you start building a story? How many changes? A lot of changes for this one. I'm sorry your fanfic will suffer now. I'm jumping around a little bit. With the overalls changing. Like, I don't know, because I really didn't start off with like a very long story. It was a very short one-shot where it was about a young girl and her friend finding this like cynical dude who kind of shakes their sort of belief and their kind of hope for the future. And it was very much like the edgy high schooler who like tells you they're like, how are you gonna survive the apocalypse? Your plan is stupid if you don't have a boat involved. Which actually someone did comment of like, why don't they just get a boat? Like, they don't know how to drive a boat, and also like that's, you know, gasoline and, you know, supplies, and you have to go over the water, and they're, you know, they're an island in the ocean, so you have, you know, currents and things that I wouldn't be able to, I don't think they would be able to operate so well. But yeah, building the story kind of happened in a weird way with these guys, because usually I would like try and plan everything out before I even started, and I started before that. But when Webtoon picked me up, they asked me like, do you have the ending thought out? And I said, yes, I do, because at that point I had already thought of it. I decided once I realized readers were enjoying this that I would keep it going, because the original plan was that they were going to just be like a lot of one-shots where like Yuna and Kawachan would leave and they'd walk into the sunset, and then they'd meet a new person, and like it would, you know, the story would be self-contained, and then they'd be over and keep moving. So they'd just meet new people and solve a problem, and then they'd just keep leaving. There would really be no ending. It would just kind of keep going if I ever had the time. So that is a big change, because after I realized people enjoyed reading it, I was like, all right, so where are they gonna go? And over time, it took some time. It took like walks in the park, or I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I have an idea. And that has changed a little over time. But also, even with the canvas version versus this version, there's been some subtle changes based on how people responded. So with the canvas version, I mean. So I guess there's really no right way to how to build the story. I think if you have an idea that you really think is very cool, and the ideas start to come, you can sort of plan things out and write some things, and maybe, you know, write things that maybe you don't need to share with anyone. It's just you drawing concept art like I did. I was just drawing concept art, and, you know, this would be interesting. And also kind of the scope of what you can accomplish, because I wasn't sure how crazy I could make a story versus the time that I had to work on it. One of the things that I changed was there are like no people in this apocalypse world, because drawing people was going to be kind of hard, and I knew, I know that sounds very lazy, but I knew my limit of how much I could work on this. I started working on this because I was really burnt out from a job that just kind of made me very sad, and I felt that I needed to make something that was in my own creative control, and uh, I tried, because I was burnt out starting it. I knew that I couldn't go too crazy, so I decided, an apocalypse where there's barely any people is what I can reasonably accomplish in like my mental state right now, and like the time that I have to work. Because if I was drawing 10,000 characters, it would take so long, there'd be so many storylines, and I wanted to simplify it as much as possible. So that's why it really is about 2 characters, and they've met more people because the story has, gotten bigger as it goes on. But that's sort of where it started and how it's kind of changed over time, because now we have, we just met 3 new characters. And we're going to an area that's a little more populated because they're going to a group of other survivors. And that was not something I thought I was going to be able to accomplish in the beginning. So it's just really what you can figure out in the moment, what you feel that you are comfortable with working, and I guess really just enjoying the concept stage. I really like making like playlists and things. I like drawing pictures and making character playlists and thinking about music that like, oh, and this is really nice, and this kind of reminds me of this atmosphere. And I think that can help you get more ideas and start to organize where your story's going. Because it is good to come up with an ending so that you kind of know where you're funneling your efforts, I guess. Does that work? That was a lot of different tangents, I suppose. So, a nice callback. Yeah, that's fun. I don't know if there's any more questions, but I think I'm going to jump off soon because I do have a non webtoon work related call that I have to get on in an hour. But I'm very excited that we were able to do this. I'm going to put these up on Instagram, social, whatever, so people can enjoy looking at them side by side. And this is very nice. This has been 2 years in the works, this comic. Technically, that first drawing was in March of 2018, so this is over 2 years, but the comic's birthday is in June. And I'm very excited that we're kind of nearing that 2-year mark, even though it's, half a year on originals. So people have it's been very nice. I don't know how many people here read it when it was on the original canvas version. But I'm very, very happy that people have joined in on, just reading it. Even if it was a new series that you just kind of came across, it's just very sweet that people have been really nice about this comic and this project and letting me do what I want to do with it. That's, like I said, I started this being really burnt out from other jobs and needing to, like, do something that I had more creative control. And I have creative control, and that's really nice. And even just, to give Webtoon a compliment, like, they give me a lot of creative freedom. They edit, they tell me a few things, but, like, I have kind of free reign of where it's going, and that's really nice. Working with a group is really nice, but it's also nice working kind of solo on this. It feels like it's just me just kind of getting to do what I want to do, and that's really nice that you guys have enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much. I'm gonna figure out how to end this stream. I have to go to the other page. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna hit that end stream button, and whenever I do another stream someday, I'll have to relearn all of this all over again. But thank you guys so much for joining in. Have a lovely day. Thank you for reading my comic, and goodbye.